good afternoon, good morning, good evening, whenever you can be checking us out. I just want to say I'm glad that you're here and welcome to the Richard Watkins podcast. I'm your host, Richard Watkins, and we have amazing conversations about all of the hottest topics in the world of innovation, education, and also health. And we bring in policymakers and thought leaders to discuss these issues. And peppered into our weekly postings, we also have episodes where it's just you and I. And I absolutely love these episodes because so many things happen and I just can't wait to talk to you all about these things. But before we go any further, I have to give a huge shout out to the folks that make all of this possible, the Science Policy Action Network. Things are happening really, really quick. And I know it is hard to keep up with all of the happenings in health education and innovation. I know it is changing the way we conduct business, it is changing the way we govern, and it is changing the way we live our lives. If you need support and you need a partner caring for the future today, reach out to the Science Policy Action Network. Check out their website, see what they're all about, span-inc.org. Again, that's span-inc.org. Now let's get right back into it. All right, man, this week, or since we last saw each other, it's been a heavy education week. It's been a heavy education week. And over the past, honestly, 3 weeks, I mean, we've been doing a lot with education. I remember I went and I talked about this not too long ago. I went to an elementary school where I was talking to the kids, kindergarten through fifth grade, about one, what is it like, running a company? But two, what is it like to focus on science? And I was talking to them about all the amazing things that are going on in science. And I thought one of the things that was interesting is that many of the kids I asked, "Hey, do you like science?" And many of them said, "No, I don't like it at all." I accepted their answer. And right after that, we started talking about the creation of a real life replica of the long extinct dire wolf. We talked obviously about artificial intelligence. We talked about the capacity to regrow limbs like crabs or lizards do when they lose a limb or an extremity. And we also talked about video games and so on and so forth. And at the end of the conversation, I checked back in with the kids. I said, it turns out you do like science. And the kids were like, yeah, I do. And what the conclusion that I came to, and I think I mentioned it before, what I found is that by and large, kids love science, but what they don't like is science class. And it's not necessarily just science class. Science class is part of the broader context of school, for which, newsflash, I think I'm going to break it. I think I'm going to break the hearts of a lot of my amazing practitioners out there. A lot of kids just don't like school, like in general. They just think school is boring. And, if you kind of just think about the way it's set up, like, they're justified in thinking that you need permission to go to the bathroom. It's just, it's really artificial. You have to sit still. I mean, for me, I have a hard time sitting still and I'm adult. I can just only imagine what it's like for a child. It's just really, really tough. And so what we find is kids love science. They love this concept of the exploration of the unknown and constantly finding out things about the world around them. It is just absolutely amazing to hear how excited they are. And so having a week that has really been dedicated to education is just something that's really special to me, right? There is no clearer investment in our future than how we support education. Now, let me say it one more time. There's no more clear investment in our future than how we support really education. And in that regard, science education is is the most important thing in education. Now, I know you can talk to 1 million people and you can find 999,000 plus folks who disagree with me, but there's nothing more important than science. In fact, I believe all other subjects can be taught through science. And I really do believe in a rapidly advancing world, that is how we should really approach it. So the first opportunity I had was I served as the keynote speaker. Yes, I give speeches. Hit me up if you want the greatest speaker you ever heard. Not for real, for real. Hit me up. Hit me up. So I served as the keynote for the Leads Summit put on by the North Carolina Science Leadership Association. This brought together science leaders from around the state to discuss initiatives in science. And there's a real big focus, obviously, on science education K through 12. So that was amazing. And LEAD stands for Lead the Profession, Educate through Research, Advocate for Inclusive Practices, Diversify Learning Opportunities, and Support Science Educators. And so I had a really great opportunity. The title of the talk was uh, Discovery, Innovation, and Apple Pie. And basically, the story unfolded. The audience was able to see how innovation and discovery, which is how I defined science, really is as American as apple pie. And at the end of the talk, it was like, well, we're in the South and you can't spell science without NC, so let's switch it up, sweet potato pie. And so we discovery innovation is as American as sweet potato pie. And so that was just a great thing. But in there, in that conversation, I really focused on, three main things that I felt really need to be said. And these things were well received by the audience. And I'm just gonna try them out on you, just see how you feel about it. The very first thing in regards to education K through 12 is science from the start. Science from the start, right? So from the moment a child enters into education, that first thing, kindergarten, many times is pre-K, they should be introduced to science from the very beginning. Now, how it's really looked at now, and you'll hear a lot of educators, they'll say, we already do that. But the students aren't necessarily evaluated on, how they're internalizing what you're teaching them as far as science. It's really kind of looked at as like an elective, kind of as a bonus thing, kind of tertiary. It's like to the side. It's not the main thing, right? But it needs to be made the main thing. Science from the start and science as the main thing. And all the important lessons that need to be taught at those particular ages should be taught through the context of science. And so that's the first thing. The second thing is at some point, the conversation of science education has to change a little bit. So it's more or less the memorization and regurgitation of things that have already been discovered, right? Already known. And a lot of folks think that's great, right? If you can memorize the Krebs cycle, right? You can memorize all of these elements on a periodic table, you're really good. Um, and I think that's really important. It's important to build that foundation, but that's not necessarily, I believe, the foundation that needs to be built because that's not science. It's not science. I didn't realize that until obviously I became a scientist myself, and I realized that science is not memorization and regurgitation. It is the exploration of the unknown. I'm going to say it one more time, just make sure you get that crystal clear. Science is not memorization and regurgitation of things that are already known. It's the exploration of the unknown. And that's not something that we generally do, right? We do get kids to really think creatively, so on and so forth, but we're not necessarily focus on the question mark, right? The question. What questions are we asking? Asking a good question. And what collectively do we not know? That has to be included into the scientific curriculum, right? This exploration of the unknown. And you have to get both the educators and that class to the point where we understand what we don't know. And that's a hard and difficult process. And it's a process very different from what we currently engage with. We rarely kind of on a personal level really go to that space where we start really addressing what don't we know, what don't I know. And I think that's the hard part because you have to build the foundation so you can realize, all right, what's the difference between something I don't know and something we don't know. And you have to learn the basics for that. But I think that's really, really important because I don't believe science is about what we've already known, right? Obviously we have to celebrate it and build on that, but science is the exploration of the unknown. And we have to start allowing children to really ponder the unknown. And I think we're going to see massive shifts in the quality of scientists that we generate. The next thing I would say is also at a certain point, um, you know, later years of middle school, throughout high school, we have to begin to insert scientific literature into the curriculum, specifically peer-reviewed scientific articles describing primary research. I think that's really, really important. Because just like that second recommendation of really appreciating the unknown, asking good questions, really exploring what we don't know, it's also really important to figure out how we put together, experiments to answer questions, right? There's so much to how a article is really kind of put together, and I think really appreciating that allows individuals to appreciate the creativity that goes into this exploration, right? The way it's really built out with I didn't know really how to properly read a scientific article until I got into graduate school. And I think that's a huge missed opportunity. I think that's a huge missed opportunity, but it's an opportunity. So we have these articles, we have these journals, right? We can start incorporating these articles into the curriculum. It will really change the way we view science because we view science pretty much as science class, but I think we really need to start looking at science as, innovation, discovery, exploration of the unknown, and seeing all that goes into that process. It's really laid out in your scientific articles. And by and large, high school students emerge from high school not having any interactions with that type of literature. And that's a huge missed opportunity. This concept of abstract, introduction, materials and methods, right? Describing how you do what you do, right? And then really going into your results section where you really lay out what you see. And what you see is supported oftentimes by graphs and tables, and you can start learning how to appreciate graphs, which is something that high school students already have to know in many curriculums. And so you start to really start building that in there. And then you see how the results are all put together in a conclusion. You can see how these results fit into the broader context of whatever discipline that you're in or the broader context of the questions that you're asking. You lay all of that out in a discussion section. I love the discussion section. It's great. It really shows all right where we are, what our research and results may mean to the field. It gives you an opportunity to really explore shortcomings of your research. I think that's really, really important because no research is perfect, and a good researcher can appreciate the shortcomings of their research. And those shortcomings of that research often provides insights into future directions, which is also something that is discussed, right? Where can we go from here? One other thing that's really important is a discussion of alternative explanations, right? You're seeing something, it fits into your theory of how things are working, your hypothesis of how things are working, but it may not be that. And exploring alternate explanations, really trying to address your blind spots. It's an activity that is just absolutely amazing, and it really goes into the discussion section, and it's something that people really need to really really appreciate. And so those are just three things, right? So the first thing, science for a start. Second thing, exploring the unknown, and third is really reviewing scientific articles. And those are things that are easy lifts that can be incorporated into scientific curriculum to bring science education closer to what is truly science. So that's the first thing. And huge shout out to all the leaders, Michelle Ellis over at the North Carolina Science Leadership Association. Amazing individuals. I had an opportunity to serve as a keynote speaker, and the audience was all like more accomplished than I am. It was an honor. It was a privilege. Thank you so much for giving me that opportunity. And so that then rolled into the Rotary Club. So I'm a Rotarian. I'm a member of the Rotary Club of Raleigh, North Carolina, the oldest Rotary Club in North Carolina. I think it's the oldest civic organization in North Carolina. It's just really, really amazing. The speakers in were part of an organization that focuses on education. I have the opportunity to serve on the board of advisors for the North Carolina Public Education Forum, headed up by Dr. Mary Ann Wolf. It's so funny because my opportunity to serve on that forum gave me the opportunity to write an op-ed about science education in North Carolina. That op-ed got me noticed by the leaders over at NCSLA, who then turned around and gave me a ring and asked me to serve as a keynote speaker. And so all of these things are together. So huge shout out to Dr. Mary Ann Wolf and all of her staff at the North Carolina Public Education Forum. At that talk, they really kind of started really talking about, how we should be investing more in education in general. Again, I just want to point out that there's no clear investment in our future. There's no better investment in our future than our investment in education. And they just really laid out, where we are as far as what we are investing in education. I mean, we're not doing very well, not in the state of North Carolina. And I would love to see how the other states are really laid out. But in regards to investment in K through 12 education here in the state of North Carolina, I think we're close to the bottom of the barrel in the 40s, right? And so that was just an amazing conversation, hearing about how we can do that. And again, we're always talking about opportunities. So once you explore a shortcoming, you then have the opportunity to really make it better. And so huge shout out to the folks that really do that. And then last but not least, just randomly, I had an opportunity to spend some time at the North Carolina General Assembly, where all of our state's HBCUs in North Carolina is home to the most four-year historically Black colleges and universities in the nation. There's more here than anywhere else. I will also say, home of the best, right? I'm a product of Fayetteville State University, attitude check, Bronco pride. Finished up in 2007. I was able to play football there. Like, I love HBCUs. I love my HBCU, Fayetteville State University. And just absolutely incredible. And listen, I had the honor and privilege of being able to sit at the table with these university and colleges, chancellors and presidents. And I was just humbled and honored to just be in their presence. These champions of higher education advocating for support for historically Black colleges and universities was just absolutely inspiring. As a product of an HBCU, just to see that, it was just really, really cool, really, really amazing. I just truly enjoyed every moment of my time at Fayetteville State University. It made me who I am today. It really brought me to science, really. So I would not be a scientist if it was not for all the amazing folks at Fayetteville State University. And that just really wrapped up just a huge week where we focus on education. I just think one of the things that is worth kind of considering is how difficult it is to build you know an education system. Like, if you think about what education is supposed to do, it's supposed to um through kind of a standard, right? A standard process of making sure as many members of your society know certain things, right? And it's in hope to have them be functioning members of the workforce. And that's all well and good. I think the hard part about it is take, for example, a student that's in second grade right now, and teachers are really trying to impress upon that student all the things that that student should know to be successful after they graduate. The hard part about that is there is no way the teacher knows the world that awaits that student, right? The the amount of change that society, that the labor force, that the economy, that the world will have experienced by the time that second grader graduates from high school may make the lessons that you are teaching that student now just useless. And I know that's just it just the world is just changing so much. And it's hard for most people to really wrap their minds around just the amount of change that is coming, right? And that is already here. What role will people play in the workforce? What role will people play in the economy? Um, that's a really, really difficult thing to really think about. I mean, I, I talk to my daughter and I say this all the time. You know, she's looking forward to one day when she'll be able to drive a car. And the reality is there may not be a need for her to drive a car by the time she is old enough to drive a car. Cars will be driving themselves fully automated. We've already got fully automated cars now. I mean, well, all that I'm talking about is for them to be ubiquitous throughout society to the point where if you're not in a self-driving car, you're kind of like looked at, you know, as an outsider, right? As an outlier to the norm. That's just what I'm referring to, and that's what I am talking about. And so it's just really, really difficult. What future is our education system preparing our students for? It's a really, really difficult piece to really wrap your minds around. And so, a huge shout out to all the folks in education. You already have a very, very, very difficult job. But then, when you layer on top of that, just how quickly the world's changing. I mean, I say it, I've said it before, and I'll say it again. The impact that innovation will have on our society over the course of the next 10 years will be greater than the impact that innovation has had on our society for the past 1,000 years. And that's huge to really just wrap your mind around. But, um, you know, we will see. But regardless, there are folks out there who I have had the opportunity over the past week to hang out with, and they are some of the most amazing people that I have ever had a chance to meet. I am the son of an educator. Um, you know, just amazing folks that have dedicated their lives to the education and preparation of future generations to be leaders. And, you know, many of whom, you know, there are so many folks who work in education tirelessly without thanks. But with that being said, I'm just taking the opportunity now to give a huge shout out to all my educators out there doing amazing work, really taking care of our babies out there. I really, really appreciate it. Anyway, we've got great conversations coming up over the course of the next few weeks. We'll be talking about amazing topics. We talked about aviation already. We talked about public health. We also talked about research happening at our amazing universities. Also, I shouldn't forget, we also talked about quantum computing, but we have amazing conversations coming up on the Richard Watkins podcast. If you have any ideas or any topics that you want to hear, make sure you put them down below in the comments section. My name is Richard Watkins. I'm happy and honored to be the host of the Richard Watkins podcast. I will see you again next week, the week after. Be sure to check out all of our past episodes, Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. With that being said, you all have a wonderful, wonderful day and get smarter out there. Take care.